and there has been a great shift from cash to digital. It is expected that about $33.5 trillion is going to be the digital cash by 2030. That's a big amount of money. It's a great pleasure to be here again at the PCI community meeting. Good to see old friends and meet all of you, and thank you for taking time to join this session. I know it's been a long day, but super excited to be part of this session, which is pretty exciting for me. One of the key things is I've had the vantage point of looking at the digital payment industry for the last 19 years. I've been in the community. I've also been part of the transformation journey, witnessed it, and today talking about how this is yet again shaping the global digital payment industry. This topic really appeals to me, and I will be super excited to share how we as a community need to navigate as we move forward with respect to compliance. One of the key things that we all agree that there's been a great shift in the way the digital payment industry has actually transformed in the last decade or so. The so-called cash, the enemy of inclusion, has really been executed pretty well by most governments across the world. And there has been a great shift from cash to digital. It is expected that about $33.5 trillion is going to be the digital cash by 2030. That's a big amount of money. And already, at the moment that we are, the cash is already at 80% pre-pandemic level. That is actually reduced by about 20%. And this reduction is also accelerating with about 4% reduction in the year. And what this means is there's going to be more digital across the world. And it's not just one region. And this is why I say that. The world is where I see North America. You see a great amount of push towards digital wallets. It's expected that volume will go up to 52%. That means that for all form factors at any point in time, you have around digital payments. Digital wallets being used. When it comes to Europe, you will see a lot of digital payments picking up in a very big way. The one like credit transfer that is in the annual, which will really transform cross-border, cross-currency digital payments, other than the way the SEPA is actually doing now with respect to the European payment initiatives of digital payments. Then of course you have the PSD3, which is the stronger customer authentication that is going to come in, safeguard customers from fraud as well as the issuers. So a lot of push is happening in Europe as well. Then when you come to Africa, and Africa specifically, you will see things like M-Pesa, a lot of mobile payments will be transforming the way the payments are being executed. Of course, LATAM, no brainer there. You see Brazil, PIX really picking up, and every Latin America country essentially wants to replicate what's happening in Brazil, the kind of transformation that is being in the society there. Move forward to India, the UPI today does about 20 million transactions. That's right, 20 billion transactions a month. And it's expected that the cash comes down to less than 10% by 2028. That's a huge volume of digitization that we are seeing. And then as you move forward to South Africa, South Korea, or Japan, so a lot of QR-based payments which are actually transforming the entire digital payment industry. So overall, a lot of changes that's happening across the world, and we are in for a recent pattern. But what's more exciting is the form factors of payments are also changing. One, we already have cards, and those cards are going to play a key role. Even the digital wallets coming to the institution because you can top up. But what is more exciting is the fact that CBDCs, the central bank digital currency impact, the central bank currencies are also driving these changes. For example, in China, the yuan is really picked up in a big way, and today we can make merchant payments using CBDC or EON, that is the same case in Nigeria. So lots of form factors of payments, especially in CBDC, being pushed because it brings regulatory support. And then on the other side, you see stable coins, free markets such as US, stable coins, the Genius Act in past, you would see a lot of push. Of course, may not be the consumer side of the house, but you will see a lot of B2B payments, smart contracts. And what is more exciting about stable coins is the fact that they be programmed that is their end. What it essentially means that I will condition the payment, perhaps a vendor based on execution of certain condition that is required. So these form factors of payments are also transforming the entire digital payment industry, and that's what is really exciting. And how does it matter for us as a community? Because at the end of the day, we are here as compliance stakeholders. One of the key things is with stable coins, with smart contract kind of payment transfer, there's going to be more data. And once there are more data, obviously data security, compliance standards, those kinds of aspects comes in a very big way, which means that more responsibility on the shoulders of people out here. While I spoke a little bit about the way the digital payment industry is transforming, the next couple of minutes that I have to, I want to talk about the security that is going to play out, which we all need as a community grapple with. Last year I spoke on quantum security in one of the community meetings in Asia Pacific, where I presented about the fact that we as a community need to get our work act together with respect to quantum security and get ready for quantum security, because this year 2025 as stated by United Nations is the quantum year. McKinsey actually wrote a very nice paper saying that it's been years since we've always believed, and there was this major joke that used to run that for the last 30 years we've been saying that quantum is going to come in the next decade. And that's been busted at least as we speak in 2025. Because quantum, the Q-day, is a reality today. And we need to expect, and we are expected to actually prepare for that day when it will actually break. And what that means is quantum could break an RSA algorithm in less than 10 seconds. What would take classical computers about 300 million years. So that's the kind of impact that quantum could have on cybersecurity, and everything that we know is based on cryptography. And so hence it needs a lot more attention. And one of the key things that I see in PCI standards, we have this construct of actually inventorizing all the cryptographic keys, which is a very good start. But having said that, we need to start preparing ourselves for cryptography. The other major thing with quantum is going to be the fact that all your asymmetric keys, like your digital signatures, things of that kind, are going to need to be transitioned to what list approved algorithms, which we all need to start working on. And one of the key things that is something that we need to all prepare is for the Moscow theorem. It essentially says that harvest now and decrypt data. In order to prepare for that, especially with finance, regulated kind of environment, this becomes extremely important. Which means that you have prepare as per the Moscow theorem. You need to identify the time period that your data needs to be protected, plus the time you need to migrate to be lesser than the time you will have to actually prepare for the key data. It essentially means in many cases we are running out of time. So this is a call for action. I'm sure the community will work, and I'm probably in the fact of my presentation I would probably call for actions we as a community to work on. But the point that I wanted to make in the second section of my presentation was that this is something that we need to work and be ready with as a security professional. But what does this mean? The new reality is going to be multi-rail. We are going to have multiple rails of payment systems. First, we've already started seeing that. We have instant payments, We are going to see a lot more stable coins, crypto, CBDCs coming into the picture. We are also going to see many local governments starting pushing their own mandates. So many of these payment rails are going to come into existence. Like the Singapore, Thailand, and Cambodia, if I'm not mistaken, is coming together as part of Project Nexus, right? Where they are bringing in and making it cross-country in terms of inter-country payments. So lots of these things are going to come through with multiple rates, multiple risks of the ecosystem. And as cyber threats is expected to also reach about $15 trillion because of all these multiple risks that are going to come in after whatever we've got today. So, just for a moment, if you look at the current threats that we all have, which of course I don't need to preach the fact that we've got these kinds of social engineering, credential theft kind of attacks, which are actually happening, and one of the key interesting things is where you can trick the chatbots to actually reveal a lot more information. You've got supply chain attacks. I'm not sure how many of you have recently seen a major CRM company had issue of false authentication tokens being compromised because of the integration with the third-party risk which generated because of that construct. You had insider threats. We are being a forensic investigator ourselves. We have started seeing a lot of insider threats also happening with, with people modifying balances at the authentication, at the authorization stages, which is very harder to find in today's construct. You've got identity checks, MFA bypass attacks, MFA is a very, very important code, which we all do as PCI assessors, as PCI ISAs. I'm sure all of you are keeping that in mind, but we also have started seeing a lot of MFA bypasses, which essentially leads to a lot of these compromises. Then we've started seeing API cloud misconfigurations, which has been involved, and of course the IoT and multiple other things. And I'm not sure how many of you have read this recent Access 7 attacks, which is the management system which was actually controlling the entire IoT system. One of the popular companies which was actually monitoring all the IoT, which is very popular in healthcare, and that was also used by many of the Indian providers, was compromised for data exfiltration, popularly known as Access 7 attacks. So the point that I was trying to drive is, with the current ecosystem, with the current limited rails, we already are witnessed sufficient amount of attacks that are happening in place, and something to be in mind. But what's going to come tomorrow is even more, right? Which is with the deepfakes, AI-generated phishing attacks, which is we've already started seeing volume increase tremendously, and that's only going to happen. It's going to increase more and more. We're going to have one of the key things is on malicious libraries. We already saw that this warnings. One of the key things that people anticipate more is about prompt injection, prompt hacking, adversarial LLMs. One of the key things that we have now worked on is AI red teaming, and in fact we also have a lot of solutions around that. But one of the key things that we have started seeing is that using large language models, especially with the agentic AI, and in the payments world, so we have already started seeing use cases on agentic commerce. I'm sure many of you have heard this in the news. Lots of organizations, large retailers, are started experimenting on agentic commerce. Agentic commerce, something like you can book your vacation next year based on your last year vacation, and the agent would actually not just book your itinerary but also make the payment. So those kinds of systems would also be as vulnerable as what the previous attacks have already shown us. So the last 5 minutes that I have with you, just want to spend on two important constructs. Right? So what do we need to do? So I have put together two major asks and probably thoughts in terms of how we as a community should grow. One is of course from a security standpoint, the other is from a compliance standpoint. So security, One of the key things that we need to keep in mind is with these multi-rail payments that are going to come in, we can't have fraud management systems which are isolated. All the fraud management systems have to be integrated because there are going to be attackers who are going to cross-pollinate between multiple rails. And though there are going to be local implementations, the risks are going to be low. The second is fraud monitoring and cybersecurity monitoring has to be integrated as well. That's what I feel at the end of the day, because most, and not most, all cybersecurity incidents would lead to a fraud, right? But not all fraud leads because of cybersecurity. So there's a lot of intelligence that fraud monitoring systems could actually help cybersecurity and vice versa as well. And that's something very, very important. And one of the key constructs that we have started seeing is, of course, shadow AI. And one of the reasons when we interact with multiple stakeholders in cybersecurity, the product development team does not want to come to cybersecurity because they will ask a lot of questions. And that's one of the reasons they bypass security teams, but they use a lot of generative AI or AI in use. So AI is obviously a great thing if businesses want to do it and want to implement it. But having said that, there is sufficient amount of controls that needs to be done. And one of the key things that we believe is that you can't stop it, but you need to address it much earlier. The selection is not good enough, but you need to be able to respond in real time and make sure that actions are actually taken. So security, as opposed to I heard my earlier speaker as well talking about concept of security, privacy, and perception. But connecting the dots, I think security, when you double click on it, you need to have an integrated approach. The other thing is from a compliance standpoint. Compliance today is, and today one of the key things that we all need to get our act right is that we can't, the implementation of the digital payment industry is all going global. And there are going to be multiple compliance that are going to combine. Right? I mean, whether we like it or not, that's something that's going to happen. But the ask from us as a community and as standards, PCI Council should be to actually bring together a common standard across multiple rails, so that at the end of the day, compliance becomes a lot easier. Does not become a burden, either for the enterprise or for the consumer. Second is, of course, the AI accountability. At the end of the day, we all know that AI systems need to explain themselves for every decision they are taking, and hence it has to be by design and not as an afterthought. And what is really concerning is the concept of shadow AI, which needs to get addressed in a very, very big way. And data governance, we spoke about blockchain, and especially with blockchain and CBDC or state points, privacy is something that cannot be a good to have. It's a must to have. At the end of the day, all your bank payment transaction is going to be on the block. And hence, privacy concerns have to get addressed. That's where the regulators hopefully come together to address these concerns on a global basis. And of course, last but not the least, is to have clear mandates around quantum security. One of the key things that I've seen people say that, hey, quantum is far away from today, but I strongly disagree with that statement, because we need to be ready, even if it was not, even if you're not seeing a utility-based quantum computer today, it might soon happen with the kind of innovation that happened by Microsoft or Google or by IBM or Quantium. There are lots of disruption that's happening in quantum computers, and we need to be ready for the same. So with that note, thank you for doing the information sharing, and we just like to conclude with three basic things. So first, the digital payment industry is going through a major transformation, and I'm super excited for the community, for society, that it is going to make it more inclusive. Cost of transactions is going to come down dramatically, and cash is going to get lesser, which is going to help better inclusion, and more people are going to come into the formal economy. But having said that, second construct is security is going to be extremely foundational for this success to happen. And last but not the least is compliance has to enable the top I am very hopeful that this community will put together our ideas and thoughts as we have done in the last 19 years. The PCI Council to make sure that the society succeeds. Thank you so much for your time.